Good night, everyone. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe, and I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. So go ahead and put your questions in the comments so that I may answer it, because I'm here to answer your immigration related questions. I want to formally introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. I'm U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe, and I help clients to get their green card and status in the United States. And I want to talk to you about ways to do that. And so I'm going to do a general overview tonight. It's going to be a general overview about the ways that one can qualify for permanent residence. Now, keep in mind, if you definitely want to delve into the details of how to qualify, you can always ask your specific questions about applying for permanent residence in the United States. Or you can, if you want personal legal advice, you definitely would have to schedule a consultation by calling 561-405-4889 to schedule a consultation. The scheduling coordinator is waiting for your call at 11 up until 11 p.m. tonight, and every night Monday to Friday. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is how to qualify for permanent residence, whether you're in the United States or you're out of the United States. What ways can you do this? And I'm going to touch on that very common question: can I do it without being married to a U.S. citizen? The short answer is yes, and however, it really depends on how you qualify. There are ways to do this, but it really depends on what's going on in your situation and which way would work best for you. Now, I want to let you know that even though I'm here, I'm giving you an important topic to I'm providing information about an important topic in immigration. It doesn't mean that you can't ask your questions. The questions that you have don't have to be related to the topic that I'm talking about. It can be anything that's immigration related. I am here every single night. So if you don't have a question tonight, you just want to listen, your comfort, please feel free to do that as well. You can do that, because this is not your last opportunity to ask questions. I am here. I'm even here early tonight because I'm here guaranteed 9 p.m. Every night to answer your questions. 9 p.m. Eastern time every night. And I've come on early just because I want to talk, give myself time to tell you about this topic that I'm going to talk about. So hello, can I travel within the U.S. when I'm undocumented? So yes, you are able to travel within the United States right now, even if you don't have your papers. But keep in mind that even though it's not very common to go through the airport and be nabbed by ICE, it doesn't mean that there's a 0% chance of that happening. You still have to be careful. And you still have to make sure that you can bear that risk. If you're traveling with a valid passport, you have to be careful about that invalid visa that may be in your passport. For example, if you have a visa that's expired or invalid now, because there may be a situation where the officer who is checking your passport may have questions. However, keep in mind that their job is not to detain you. It's usually to just review to make sure that you have a valid travel identification for travel purposes, and to make sure that they maintain safety. However, keep in mind that there are risks. Now, another thing is, suppose you are wanted by ICE. Suppose there is an order of deportation that's already out for you. So it's one thing to be undocumented, but do you also have an order of deportation? And in that case, they're on the lookout for you, and they can take you at any point, at any place you are at. So it's very important that you seek legal advice, make sure that you understand the risk, as small as those risks may be. Geeta, thank you so much for sharing the live. 49 Drake, thanks for saying hello. I appreciate that. And thanks as always for tuning in. So keep those questions coming. The first question was a great question, definitely a valid question. And I would say if you're undocumented, definitely before you do any kind of traveling. Now, let me see. So this was within the U.S. If you're undocumented, you know for sure that you can't be leaving the United States and expect to get back in if you're undocumented. I came to the USA on B1, B2 visa. I'm Haitian TPS holder and my mom will. So Dume, I don't see what the rest of your question is. So please go ahead and retype that question or finish it up for me. So how do you get residence and permission to work in the United States? Whether you're living here, we'll start with in general. We'll start with in general, and then I'll touch on ways to get it if you're already here and whether you're outside of the United States. Now, generally, here are the ways that you may qualify for permanent residence. It's going to be through employment. So there are various types of employment-based green cards. However, the type that you qualify for depends on different factors. How are you qualified? What are the needs of your employer? What are the needs of the country? And so it really is important when it comes to employment-based permanent residence to get legal advice, just because the path that you're going to take is going to depend on how you qualify. For example, there is one way to apply for your own permanent residence under the employment-based category if you can show that you have extraordinary ability. That means that you're at the top of your field and you are nationally known or internationally known, and you can bring something to the table and do extraordinary things in the US. Can I adjust status if my mom filed for me? She's a green card holder and I'm a TPS holder. So good question, and in this case it really depends. So your mom can file for you as a green card holder. However, can you adjust status is really going to depend on at this time if you're out of status, right? So even if you are a TPS holder, it's not necessarily being a TPS holder is not well, it depends, right? Because you have TPS, which is a form of legal status, but how did you enter the United States? So you came in on the B1, B2. And so it may be possible to adjust status as long as you came in with a B1, B2 and you did not fall out of status at any time. Because while the TPS definitely helps to, it fixes your, protects you from deportation, it doesn't necessarily fix any past issues that you had. So for example, if you had to apply for a waiver, based on unlawful presence, then you're going to have to apply for that waiver again. And so, it really depends on the entirety of your facts. Like we would have to look at the timeline. Did you fall out of status even though you came in on a B1, B2? Did you fall out of status at any point? Are you going to require a waiver? And with sometimes the TPS does not guarantee that you can adjust status, just because the TPS itself doesn't fix the past issues. And so it's very important that you schedule a consultation before you do anything, because your case is a lot more complex and it's going to require a lot of fact-based inquiry to determine how to approach your situation. I got married, but wife divorced me and canceled my green card application. What to do to get citizenship? So if in this case, if your wife divorced you and your wife was mistreating you, subjecting you to extreme cruelty, so for example, was your wife controlling? Did she use your immigration status against you? You know, was there abuse in the relationship, and was she the one that was abusing you? If that is the case, then you could apply on your own as long as you have been divorced for less than 2 years. If you've been divorced for less than 2 years and you were mistreated or subjected to extreme cruelty, you would be able to qualify for adjustment of status in the United States and get a work permit. And so this is something, Honey Love 435, that you should really consider. Now, in order to schedule a consultation, you should, and this goes for Dume and you and anybody else who's listening who wants to get personal legal advice, there is a scheduling coordinator who is available right now to take your call up until 11 p.m. tonight, and also Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night. So it's very important to schedule a consultation to evaluate your options. And if you are currently divorced, the clock is ticking, because you can only apply for this type of application if you have been divorced for less than 2 years. So got married but wife divorced me 3 years and canceled my green card. So you said 3 years. So if you've been divorced for 3 years, you wouldn't qualify. If you've been divorced for less than 2 years, you could possibly qualify, but it's going to require consultation to go through all your facts to make sure that you meet all the requirements to apply on your own. I am married to a green card holder. Can we apply for a green card for me? I overstayed my visa. So Mel 75, thanks for your question. Now, you can apply for the permanent residence. However, adjusting status may not be a possibility as long as you are married to a green card holder. Your green card holder spouse would have to become a U.S. citizen for you to be able to stay in the United States and apply. Now, sometimes it makes sense for your spouse to go ahead and just get citizenship. Sometimes they're ready to apply for U.S. citizenship, and so within 6 months to a year, they can get the U.S. citizenship and then apply for you. However, if your spouse is looking at a couple years, well, maybe 4 or 5 years until they get permanent residence, in the case that they just got permanent residence, then you would have to go the waiver route. And Dume, you're welcome. And the waiver route is with the waiver route, you could stay in the United States, apply for the petition. Then when the petition is approved, your spouse, you would have to submit a type of waivers like forgiveness for the overstay. But to qualify for it, you have to have a green card holder spouse, which you do, and you have to show that your spouse will experience extreme hardship if you don't get the permanent residence. Extreme hardship could mean that there's going to be some sort of devastating consequences that will follow if you don't get the green card. That could mean that your spouse would have to leave the country with you to live in your other country, or that you would, if you have children together, then your spouse would be left with the kids to take care of the kids. Or if there is an employment opportunity that your spouse will miss if you are not there for them. These are the examples of extreme hardship, but keep in mind it's based on your particular circumstances, and that's where it's very important to get a legal consultation. You can definitely call and schedule that consultation to talk about particular options, and I urge you to do that. It's very important to do it at this point to understand how to approach your situation. So Honey Love, no abuse, just cheated. It's been 3 years now, no mistreatment. So in that case, I don't like to say on here that you have no other options, because I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what your facts are. So I cannot tell you that. But what I can say is schedule a consultation and let's talk about other circumstances. Now, if you have U.S. citizen children, if one of your children is 21 and over, that could be another possible way for you to obtain permanent residence in the United States. And so you should definitely schedule a consultation, and let's talk about different things going on with you to see if there are additional options. So if I apply for the K1 fiance visa for my partner, and in the process we get married, does it become does it become invalid? Great question. You have to definitely disclose that you're now married. You should not go to the interview and still try to pretend as if you're engaged to go through the process. You have to then switch to a marriage base, and the K1 isn't going to automatically switch over to a spouse immigrant visa. You're going to have to file the paperwork in order to get the spouse immigrant visa for your partner. So definitely, before you make any moves, get a consultation to determine which way is best. For example, if you are, a year into the K1, it might very well be approved and you could get married in the United States versus getting married and then have to start the process all over again. So get legal advice before you do anything. Size thick, thanks for your question. The consultations are $150 for up to an hour. Now, I require consultations because every single case is different, and whether you qualify for something is really going to depend on your facts. So in the consultations, I provide you legal advice. You walk out knowing your options. You walk out knowing how to approach your situation. You walk out knowing that you possibly avoided mistakes, especially when you do it before you file an application. And you can walk out with me as an attorney, as your attorney, should we determine you qualify and that you need the assistance. So the number is 561-405-4889. You can also go to the link in my bio. It's going to take you to the website where you will get the contact number. There's also a contact form there for your convenience where you can go ahead and fill that form out, and a scheduling coordinator will get back to you. Now, keep in mind that scheduling coordinators are available from 9:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. So plenty of time for you to call on your off time to schedule. So yes, a daughter just turned 2. So Honey Love 435, unfortunately, having a baby is not going to qualify you automatically qualify you for status. Your child has to be 21 and up to be able to qualify to apply for you to get permanent residence. So Montu, let's see. Montu, arrest warrant issue. So I didn't see, I have no custom. So I didn't get the full question. Your question is very fragmented, Montu. Can you please retype your question in one sentence so I can understand what you're asking? It's a J1. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. What form do I send my baby father so I can take out my baby's passport? So I don't have the name of the form off the top of my head, but you can definitely go to the Department of State's website, I believe, where you can look that up. So you can look up the different forms, and somewhere on the Department of State or that website designated for the passport applications, there should be something there. I works Uber driving. So after you get your receipt, how long after you do the biometrics? So right now it's up and down and very erratic. So, it's being scheduled about 3 months to 4 months after the receipt notice. But keep in mind that this time that I'm giving you is they're just estimates based on my experience and observations. It is not set in stone. So it could be less for you. There is currently a backlog and COVID made it worse. And so hopefully if we're on the other side of it, you could see your biometrics come earlier than that. But I would say prepare for a few months. If you have an EAD and it expires, what path can I take to renew it? So it with the employment authorization document, There are ways to renew it, but you'll have to qualify, Andrea. So it's very important that you get a consultation to make sure that you still qualify to continue to renew your work authorization. Because, for example, if your application, so usually a work permit or an EAD is based on your application. So an application, an immigration application where you're applying for a benefit, and while you're applying for the benefit, they allow you to work. And if you get denied on that application, then it could also invalidate the EAD, and then you wouldn't have a chance to reapply. So very important you get legal consultation to determine what your best options are. On my immigration case status, it says my name was updated. What does it mean? So what it usually means is that they updated something. So sometimes when I submit a form to the USCIS stating that I now represent a client, they will put something like this, that they've updated the name. So it may be where they updated the information. You can always call them and inquire, ask about your case, just make sure everything is going okay with it. If my fiance lives in the Dominican Republic, undocumented, and is Haitian, can he do an interview in the Dominican Republic? So I don't know what the law is in the Dominican Republic. However, when it comes on to the US law, I don't believe that they're necessarily looking at the Haitians' undocumented status in the Dominican Republic, but they may be looking at the Haitians' information in regards to how it relates to qualifying for a US visa. But I'm not sure, with the Dominican Republic, if there are any kind of laws that work to affect that process. Keep your questions coming. I'm here to answer your immigration questions, so keep those questions coming. Take advantage of a U.S. immigration attorney being here to answer your questions. Now, I am here every night at 9 p.m. I came on early and I'm still here, guys. So keep putting those questions in the comments. I'm talking about ways that you can apply for residence and status in the United States. And this is a general overview. So I've talked about employment through employer. So it's gonna be, you can do it through an employer, or in some cases maybe even self-petition if you have the qualifications to do so. There's also through family. If you have certain family members who can apply for you, you could apply for permanent residence. Now, the way that you approach that process is going to depend on where you are, who your relatives are. How fast the process is really going to depend on who your relatives are. And so that is where it's very important to get a consultation to determine whether how you should approach your situation, whether you qualify through a family member, how long will it take? I'm a Canadian citizen. How can I apply for a green card, please? So 49 Drake, you'd have to qualify like anybody else. So you'd have to qualify through family, through an employer, or through humanitarian means if you need it. And so that will, that is the question here. Do you have a family member? Do you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, spouse or parent? Do you have a U.S. citizen, son or daughter who is 21 and up? If you have these, then as well as do you have a U.S. citizen sibling? These could be a path for you to obtain permanent residence in the United States. But if you don't have that, then do you have an employer who's willing to apply for you? Now, you're asking for a green card, but some Canadians do qualify for certain types of visas, work employment-based visas like the TN visa, and it really depends on what field are you in. That could allow you to come across the border and stay here for the purposes of working temporarily, of course. That is not, and it's not a direct path to permanent residence, but it could be a way for you to try out life in the United States before you, and maybe even figure out another more permanent path later down the line. Good night. I'm currently within the U.S. on visitor's visa. I have an employer who's willing to petition for me. Can I stay here while it is being processed? So unfortunately, with a visitor's visa, you would not. It's not likely that you'd be able to stay. Now, when your employer is applying for you, you have to continue to maintain your status, your legal status. And the visitor's visa, because these kind of petitions can go on for over a year, and your visitor's visa definitely will not last that long, it's very unlikely you'd be able to adjust status. But that's great. And so that is where it's very important to get a consultation. If you have an employer, then the next step is how are you going to go about it? What type of employment-based visa are you going to pursue? Do you qualify? How will your employer qualify? These are also going to be the very important questions here. You're welcome, 49 Drake. So go ahead, keep putting those questions in the comments. I'm here till 9:30 to answer your immigration-related questions. So go ahead and put those questions in the comments now. I want to let you know that if you are here listening and you know for sure that you need personal legal advice because the information here I'm giving you. Hi there, Asha. Thanks so much, and a blessed night to you too. And you know that you need a personal legal consultation, you can call up until 11 p.m. tonight to schedule that consultation with the scheduling coordinator. They are available Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. and then on Saturday and Sundays, noon to 5 p.m. So there is plenty of time where Chem J30, you're welcome. There is plenty of time where you can call and schedule a consultation. Why not get it out of the way, especially now where you may not be working, you may have a little off time. It is a quick process to schedule the consultation, and then the scheduling coordinator will tell you how to confirm. I also want to let you know that I am here every night at 9 p.m. So I even came on a little early, which can happen sometimes, but I am here every night at 9 p.m. to answer your questions. And so what you can also do is make sure you're following me and then hop on with me whenever I go live to ask your questions. Now, I want you to know that there is no such thing as a dumb question, and I don't limit the number of times that you can ask your questions here. You can feel free, get comfortable to ask your questions as long as it is anything that's immigration related. Now, I've been covering the topic of who qualifies for residence and permission to work in the United States. Now, usually when we're talking about the permission to work, the work permit, you usually have to be applying for a benefit in the United States to get that work permit. You're welcome, Chem J30. Brandy. So only TPS and DACA looks like they will be qualified for the new immigration bill being passed. So no. Now, there are other individuals who are not covered under DACA, plenty of individuals, because there, for example, with you do have other cultures here that they don't, other countries here, citizens of other countries that don't qualify for TPS, that came here from they were young, but they still don't qualify for DACA. For example, you should be showing continuous presence in the United States from 2007 if you're applying for DACA. Many individuals who came here when they were young, even under the age of 18, didn't live here from 2007. And so the new immigration bill, which I think you're talking about, the DREAM Act, could open it up for a broader number of individuals who don't qualify for DACA. Furthermore, DACA right now is on hold, which is extremely frustrating because all new applicants have been placed on hold. So a court has ordered them, the USCIS, to stop processing DACA applications, and so they themselves are not protected right now. They are still in a bad situation. So with the DREAM Act, that's the one that is the most promising to me right now, is that if you came into the country 18 and under, you are 18 and under. Now with DACA, it's if you came into the country before your 16th birthday. This expands it to 18 and under. So that in itself can extend help, relief to many more individuals who need it. So Carlene, I'm in Boca Raton, Florida, but keep in mind that I represent clients all over the country and the world. I am not limited. Brandy, you're welcome. I am not limited by borders. And so if you have a U.S. immigration issue, you would like legal advice, I can help. And then should you hire me as your attorney, I am very experienced with working with my clients when they are across the country, when they're in all over the world. So the first step is to schedule a consultation and let's talk. While you get legal advice, valuable legal advice, you can also interview me. While I'm determining what you qualify for and telling you your options, you can determine whether you want me to be your attorney. And so you do get a lot of value, and you get to really decide whether you want to work with me in the long run. Just for $150 versus, paying a couple thousand and then regretting your decision. So start with that consultation. Keep your questions coming. I am still here, so keep your questions coming. I am here to answer your questions. I'm going to finish up the topic of how to qualify for permanent residence. This topic is just a broad overview. So if you have specific questions or you have follow-up questions, feel free to go ahead and put those questions in the comments, and I will go ahead and answer, because your questions are my priority. And as a matter of fact, your questions really help to guide the information and help me to give you information that matters to you. Hi, my friend overstaying the USA, can he travel to Florida? So traveling within the United States generally is okay for now. However, keep in mind that the risk, Suraj, the risk of anything happening really depends on the facts. For example, if your friend is wanted by ICE or they're really high up on the priority list for deportations, then that is something that you should get legal advice about before traveling. However, generally undocumented individuals do travel within the United States, and they come out fine, but the risk is not 0%. I do want to say that you do walk into a situation where there are risks as small as it could be. Keep your questions, so via airline, that is a possibility as long as you meet the identification, you meet the ID requirements of the airline and going through the TSA officers. Keep your questions coming, because I am here to answer your questions. So go ahead, put those questions in the comments. I'm finishing up the topic of how to apply for residence in the United States. And one of the things I did want to mention was that if you want a work permit, you usually have to be in the United States and qualify for some sort of immigration benefit or relief that allows you to apply for a work permit. My husband is waiting to travel to America with my kids. How long after can he return to marry me? So I thought so now with this, Asha, it really depends on the facts in your case. Now, what I usually say, there are no rules to say when you can get married. However, the timing is really sometimes it's a strategic measure. Just because when your spouse comes into the United States, what kind of plans do you have? Is your spouse going to be going through consular processing? Or could it be, do you see something happening in the future that he may need to stay in the United States? And so it's very important to get a consultation to really determine what your options should be. Because while there are no rules that says when you can get married, where you can get married, my legal advice is really going to depend on what your plans are, what works for you as a couple, what are your goals. And so definitely I would urge you to schedule a consultation. You can go to the link in my bio. It's going to take you to the website. You can fill out a contact form, or you can call. There is the number 561-405-4889. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the comments for anybody who wants to write down the number now. So it's 561-405-4889. You can call that number right now, and there's a scheduling coordinator who's available up until 11 p.m. tonight to take your call and schedule that consultation. Please classify how can a family member assist with residency? Can an aunt help a nephew? So great question, Miss Ocean, and I'm glad you asked it. No, so an aunt cannot file for a nephew directly. Now, what happens when nephews do come through to the United States and it's the aunt that filed? What happened was the aunt filed for their sibling and the sibling brought their children, which were the nieces and nephews. And so in that case, if your aunt files for their sibling, and any children who are under 21 and unmarried can go along with the sibling. But keep in mind that it's not a quick fix because it is a 14-year process. So that means by the time the kids might even age out at this time by the time the process is finished. So can my kids travel without me agreeing to it? So Asha, that's going to, I know in some cases they are wary of, parents traveling outside, one parent traveling outside of the United States with the kids. Now, when the kids have their passports, usually the parent has to consent. And so I don't know if laws may be different based on the different countries, but I don't see, they used to require the consent of the parent for the child to travel out. But now, if the parent consents to the child getting their passport, they don't really ask for a letter giving consent for the children to travel. However, check with your airline. That's the first place you could check to see if they're going to require a note, a letter of consent from you for the kids to travel. As an international student, could I join the Army and get the citizenship, or is there any other way? So you should check with the recruiter of the military. So you could call, you'd have to look it up yourself, of course, but check with a recruiter and see if that could be a possibility for you. Asha Mohammed, you are welcome. So put your questions in the comments. I'm finishing up the topic tonight, and it's just an overview tonight on how to apply for residence. Now, if you want to get a little more in detail or you have follow-up questions about that, you can go ahead and put your questions in the comments. I've been talking about applying through family, and I listed out some of the family members that could be qualified to apply for your resident. Also, if you want permission to apply, you usually have to be going through, you want permission to work in the United States, you usually have to be going through a certain process. Immigration, either adjustment of status, or applying for asylum, or applying for the TRU visa. The TRU visa are for victims of trafficking and crime. Is there any other students to get permanent residence or citizenship? So Sonam, it's going to really depend on, now I talked about family, but there's also employment. As an international student, are you being recruited? Is there an employer who's interested in you? What is your area that you've gotten that you have gotten your degree in, and can that help you to get a position, and will that employer eventually apply for you? So that could be an option. There are permanent resident options for employees, but first you have to find that employer. Also, there are ways to apply for your own, but it depends on what level of skill have you attained. Are you at the top of your field? Now, at the least, what there is there's the diversity lottery. Now, keep in mind that not every country is going to qualify for this, but this is the lottery for the green card. And what you could do is you can look into this to see whether your country would qualify by going to the Department of State's website and looking up diversity lottery, and see if that could be an option. With that, you sign up for it if you qualify, and if you're selected over the next year, you could have a shot at getting permanent residence in the United States. If you're in an abusive relationship, is it okay for you to leave? Absolutely, up top. But when it comes on to the immigration, if you have questions about the immigration, I definitely urge you, if you're in an abusive situation, it is harmful to your well-being in every way, emotionally, physically, you definitely need to leave. However, if you want to figure out how it's going to go once you leave with your immigration, then we should talk about that in a consultation. For example, if you are married to a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, spouse or parent, so in abusive relationships. So this type of relief extends to even parents and even your children, your adult children. And so if you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse, if you're under 25 and you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident parent, if you have a U.S. citizen son or daughter who's 21 and up, and you're in an abusive relationship with them, whether emotionally, whether physically, or mentally, verbally, financially, then this could be a way for you to apply for your own status and permanent residence in the United States. So go ahead, keep putting those questions in the comments. I have a few minutes. What I do want to let you know is that I'm here every night at 9 p.m. However, this conversation does not have to end. I'm heading over to Instagram right now because I do have a pre-scheduled live on Instagram at 9:30. So you can hop on over there by going to the link in my bio. You're going to see the Instagram button. Hit that button and it will take you, follow me, and then join me on live when I go over there in 1 minute. So I want to also let you know that if you can't join me on Instagram right now, you can always join me tomorrow. Make sure you're following me so that you can see when I go live. Also, if you know that you need a consultation, there is a scheduling coordinator who is available up until 11 p.m. tonight, and also Tuesday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. to take your call and schedule the consultation. I enjoyed this conversation with you. Thanks so much. And I will be back tomorrow to talk about immigration issues that matter to you. And thanks for your questions because they really help to guide the conversation. For those of you that I didn't get to your question, we can continue this on Instagram right now. So you can just go to the link in my bio and go to Instagram and join me right now. Have a good night, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow if I don't see you over on Instagram. Bye.